If you are a current or former educator, especially K to 8, I'm gonna need your help to let me know if I was out of pocket. Because I saw something the other day that I thought was kind of weird, but apparently I'm the only one who thinks that. So there's this poem by Joshua T. Dickerson called 'Cause I Ain't Got a Pencil. It's a very popular poem. I've read it before a long time ago. If you haven't read it, you should. But this is what this teacher, alleged teacher, maybe they're telling the truth, but who can tell? They have that AI piss filter as a profile pic. So who knows if they are who they say they are. So the poem is about a kid who has a difficult home life, has a lot of responsibility for a kid, and is struggling and doing the best they can to get to school and to do what they need to do. But when they get to school and they don't have it all together because they're a child, the teacher is complaining because they don't have a pencil. This is how this educator responds to that poem. In reality, little Timmy doesn't have a pencil because every time a teacher gives him one, he breaks it in half and throws it at his classmates. By the way, he borrowed a pencil from every teacher he's had today before he got to sixth period without a pencil. Where did she get all of that from? Like, she's clearly having some issues with her student, but where did she get that from this poem? Like, she saw a poem about how maybe you don't know what your student is going through, so maybe have some grace when they're not necessarily meeting your expectations. Give them some grace. They're kids. She saw this as an opportunity to complain about one of her students. And that's not weird. Like, to me, that's very weird. Is that weird to y'all? So I very politely told her to get another job and that her students would benefit from a teacher that can actually empathize with her. And she's telling me that I should get a job as a teacher since I think it's so fucking easy. Not what I said. I said you should quit because I said she should quit because she clearly doesn't really like kids that much. Fun fact, I used to work at a school. I've worked with kids in school settings. I know I have no business being an educator. That's why I'm not an educator. And that's why I can tell when other people have no business being educators. But yeah, I've worked with kids from pre-K to eighth grade. And if you've been following me for a while, you probably don't even know that because I don't talk about that. I don't talk about that part of my life. But I've very likely dealt with some of the things she's dealt with. Probably not to the same extent, probably not as much because I was only with them for maybe 4 hours a day as opposed to however many hours a day she was, maybe 6 or 7 hours a day. So I'm not, and like the responsibility level of a teacher to what I was doing is not the same. However, I also like people were misconstruing what I said, saying that the kids don't need empathy, they need direction. Like, how somehow implying that she shouldn't talk shit about her students online, even if you're not giving identifying information about them. It's still kind of weird to me. As me saying you should tolerate their bad behavior, correct them online, even talk about it online. But it's not what you're saying, it's how you're talking about them, about these kids who have no agency, no autonomy. Maybe not no, but very limited autonomy is like I said, very. There's this creator online called Supernova Mom, and she's great. I don't know if she's on TikTok, but she's on other platforms. And what she said that will always stick with me is misbehavior is a symptom of unmet needs. So instead of complaining about about your students for your 200 followers, maybe see what's going on with them. What needs do they have that's being unmet? Like the poem is about unmet needs, a student with unmet needs. And you took that as an opportunity to complain about your students who probably have their own unmet needs. Like, what are you doing about it besides talking shit about them as a person in a position to actually help them? But, this kind of reminded me from when I worked at a school of a student who had their own behavioral problems. I'm not going to give too many details, but they were in pre-K, and they are not from the US. They had came to the United States and were living with their aunt and uncle. They're separated from their parents and in a completely new country that speaks a different language. At the age of 4, he had to learn a new language, and he's separated from their mom and dad. That is a very traumatic thing to experience for anybody, any age, but especially for a preschooler. Like, can you be surprised that they're acting out? But you won't see me complaining about him online or any other student that I've worked with because that's weird. It's weird. You can talk about your struggles being a teacher online and still be respectful of your students.